大家早上好，我现在呢是在 KOD Lyons 律师行。最近的新闻大家可能有关注啊。第一个新闻点呢，就是说爱尔兰政府可能出台了一项关于05年之后留学生来了之后的大政策。第二个呢，就是关于一个巴基斯坦移民这个他被遣返之后引起了这个广泛的这个社区的投诉啊，这个很多的社区的人希望我们可以把这个人留下来。然后呢，刚刚巧呢，这个案例也是由我们 KOD Lyons 承接下来的，所以说这个来龙去脉，我们具体一会儿呢给大家详细的讲解一下。然后呢，为了大家没有关于这样政策上的误区，一会儿呢，我们让我们专家律师给大家详细介绍一下现在的情况到底是怎样。In front of me, this is our experienced solicitor from KOD Lyons, Granny Whelan.
Nice
to meet you. And Stephen Curran. Hi, Stephen. Recently, on the immigration policy, recently published on the local media, that people are very curious about under the immigration policy, what has been updated. Would you give us some information?
Yes, absolutely. Well, here at KOD Lyons, we greatly welcome the decision by the Cabinet yesterday to approve a new scheme for the very many undocumented non-EU immigrants here in Ireland to allow them to apply for leave to remain. Now, the Cabinet believes will affect approximately 5,500 undocumented workers here in Ireland. We suspect it will affect a lot more than that.
Okay, well, 5,000, I mean, that's a small number. Like, as far as I know, there'd be a lot of people, a lot of numbers, more than that anyway.
Yes, no, it's definitely our belief that the applicants into that scheme will far exceed that figure. We would anticipate double or triple those numbers making applications for the scheme. Now, the scheme, although we don't have the full details yet of what the requirements will be, but certainly the early indication is that it will affect those people who came to Ireland anywhere between January 2005 to December 2010, who came originally as students and who stayed in the country beyond their visa perimeters to work here.
Okay, so from my understanding, that means that the real scheme hasn't been published yet. So,
yeah, unfortunately, we haven't been given a timeline from the Cabinet, but we suspect it will be with us in a number of weeks from what we are informed. And again, just to mirror what Grania has said, the scope of this scheme is also very unclear. So while we are delighted and absolutely want to accept advices and to give advices in relation to it, we would prefer that people come in earlier, particularly before the scheme is announced, so that we can have documentation and advices ready for when the scheme is actually announced. So because we do expect that there is going to be a huge deluge of applications, and we want to be front of that queue.
I see. I was just wondering, according to the news, compared to the scheme we had before, is that going to be any difference? Or I don't remember if they mentioned the numbers before. I mean,
so there has been a number of quasi-legislative schemes, some policies that have been introduced for very targeted groups in the last number of years. I mean, most recently the family reunification rights under the humanitarian assistance program, is a very new style of model, albeit that we've had a scheme previously for students, which was in 2010, which was the previous application. But the way that other policy documents have developed, they are tending to look at things like work history, family life and private rights in the state, and they're emphasising those details. They also seem to be emphasising character and conduct and proof that individuals have engaged with community life here in Ireland as well. So while we can't really, all we can do is speculate on what the scheme is going to contain, it would certainly be very beneficial for clients to, I suppose, look at those areas in the next couple of weeks while they're gathering documents.
Yes.
So they actually include a little bit more area than before.
That's what
from our perspective.
And again, that is what our hope is.
Okay.
Without a published document, it probably isn't a good idea to speculate. However, we would certainly advise people if they're coming into us that these are the types of documents.
Exactly, and certainly over the last number of years, those seem to have been the considerations that they have put the most amount of weight on. So we definitely, they will absolutely be looking for whether or not people have been working within the community, and that will be seen as a positive for applicants as opposed to a negative. I think it will absolutely be the weightiest of all the requirements.
Yeah, like far as I know, lots of Chinese has been working here. They have been working hard, try to make a life and living here as well. So, do you think that could be a beneficial during their applications?
I think historically, members of the Chinese community are some of the most hardworking people in our community, and with the uprise in the economy and the need for more and more workers in the force, I think they would be a very welcome addition to the Irish workforce. I think that's where the government is looking at in relation to this. They want people who are qualified, who are able to work, and most importantly, who want to work. And I think those are all the finest qualities of the Chinese community.
Wow.
But
do they have official date yet? I mean, is any insight we can have, or inside stories?
The inside story is that they want to have the scheme up and running by the end of this year.
Okay,
so in order for that to happen, we would need to have policy documents in the next number of weeks in order to be able to process the various numbers of claims. There will be I would imagine, a detailed application form process, followed by weighty legal submissions and then relevant documentation in relation to what the applicant has been doing in the last 10 to 12 years, and also whether or not they have families, things like that. But the other thing for people to consider is, if you have applied and have received a negative decision from the Minister in relation to your right to remain, we believe that you will be in a position to apply for this scheme again.
Again, for anyone who listens to this, in that circumstance, this is good news. Because when the new scheme, then they actually have another chance to appeal.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. And I think there'll be a lot of people who will fall into that category, who may have not got the decision they wanted, but have been here within those timeframes and have been working.
Issues. I mean, KOD Lyons has a long history of dealing with certainly the previous scheme, which was here, with change in status applications, with everything department related or INIS related and GNIB related. We are the experts in law, and we are also the experts in administrative schemes. That is what we do. It's not to say that a layperson can't attempt to do it, but certainly coming to a solicitor and getting legal advice gives you a much better chance to highlight and accentuate, I suppose, what is positive about an application. You have to bear in mind, we don't know what way this scheme is going to work in terms of whether they're going to put a cap on the numbers applying, whether, again, and they've done that very recently with the humanitarian assistance program with family reunification. If they're going to follow that model again, really they're going to have to try and differentiate between quality of applications. And coming to a solicitor's office, we don't just rely upon standard documentation, we look at the holistic approach, and we also really examine what the legal framework is. And therefore, coming to us means, while there's no guarantee that you won't be asked for more documentation, but we go above and beyond for our clients, and we certainly want to do it at an early stage to make sure that we're putting them in the best position to be considered for permission to remain.
Exactly. This has been published onto the news as well, and I got lots of phone calls. People ask for details about the case. Basically, it's a regular case if people just get 3 options of deportation orders. But I think that there is something a little bit different in order to his case. Does anyone can give me a little bit details about it?
Vicky is a very good client of this office. We had originally applied for asylum through our immigration team for Vicky. In the late 2000s. Vicky unfortunately was refused refugee status and refused subsidiary protection.
I see.
And was ultimately refused leave to remain, albeit that we believed that he had extremely strong grounds to contest that. Ultimately, what Vicky had done in conjunction with this office is had gone back to the local community.
Okay.
Vicky was based in Longford. and had been working as a nurse there. Like many Chinese people will have obviously been working and would have been in a very similar situation to Vicky.
Sure.
And got representation letters from over 80 different individuals.
Wow.
And also signed an online petition. I think the official figure, we're still not fully sure as to whether it's 7,000 or 8,000, but media reports are suggesting
so that means the local people support him.
Local people supporting him and signing an online petition for him to remain.
Wow.
And he was still issued with a deportation order, had left the country, but because of the representations made by this office on foot of all of the very, very good character references and the petition, it appears that the Minister is now reconsidering Vicky's application, and we are hoping that the decision is going to be reversed shortly.
Wow.
That marks, in our view, a massive sea change in policy.
Did this ever happen before? Because it sounds really unusual.
In our experience, it hasn't happened before. However, when Vicky came into us and we saw his case and we saw that it was a very unfair and unusual set of circumstances, and we really saw something behind it, and it was, in fairness to the immigration department here, they put their shoulders to the wheel and didn't give up and kept fighting for him even when he had left the jurisdiction. And as Stephen has said, it marks a great change, it would appear. It certainly looks like they are changing their views or their policies in relation to it, and it is the first time that we have seen the Minister agreeing to have another look at a file such as this.
Well done for your job, anyway. Based on that information, can I just point back to the other issue that if a Chinese person who back to China already, but when the new scheme come out, they actually could be qualified for this scheme, is anything there they can do about in that situation?
So the difficulty is going to be for those clients, we will have to come up with a bespoke solution for them. Again, I'm speaking without having seen the scheme,
Okay.
but I would imagine that any scheme will preclude people who already have deportation orders in existence for them, okay, who haven't made representations in relation to that they will be presumptively excluded from a scheme. However, in light of the other developments and in light of what the scheme now purports to do and the decisions in Luxemon and Belsham, which are now being decided, we would certainly be very happy to talk to people about potential revocation options.
Yes.
And it is also important to highlight, Lee, for people who are watching this, that if there has been a change in their circumstances one way or the other with Irish citizen children or European spouse, that there are ways to revoke deportation orders in the normal process. There is a process that exists there. But what we would say very strongly is once we see the terms of this scheme, we could argue that there is a legitimate expectation that someone who has a deportation order should have it revoked to be considered under the scheme.
Yes. Absolutely. When you need detailed legal submissions to argue your way around a set of circumstances, that's where having a lawyer is vitally important. But to that end, we've decided to have an open day here at KOD Lyons on Friday the 5th of October, where we are going to clear our diary for that entire day. So if people would like to come in and have a talk to us, and hopefully by that stage we'll have a better idea of what the scheme exactly encompasses. But if people would like to come in and have a talk with myself or Stephen in relation to it, they're very welcome to come into the office.
That's very good news, because you do need professionals to give the advice on, especially on this important occasion. You don't want to mess up. You know, you probably only have 1 or 2 chances to apply, you know.
That's it. And given the fact that we see that the Cabinet has certainly tried to put a figure on it, they're trying to limit the numbers. We would like for your case to be one of the first up on the list. And I can't stress how important it is to have enough time to prepare all the documents and to have everything just right for the application process and to get in good and early so that we can guarantee that we will be considered and that there won't be a stop on any numbers. And if you are coming in on the 5th of October, Friday the 5th of October, bring whatever paperwork you have. If you already have an application in being, bring the application form or any copies that you have so that we can look at it and evaluate where you are in the system as best we can, and then make a judgment call on whether or not we are in a position to apply under the scheme.
I see. I mean, because it was only very general information on the website, so people try to do themselves. It's actually make them very hard. I guess that's why we need legal firm, professional team to do that kind of job.
Well, when you have a firm like our firm and an immigration department as large as ours, we would process many applications such as these on a daily basis, and because of that experience, we're able to help you through the process a lot quicker. Finally, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to discuss these matters with you today, and I'm really hopeful that very many members of the Chinese community will receive positive outlook in relation to the scheme and decisions to remain. But if people would like to know more information in relation to the scheme and possibly making an application for themselves or family members, or indeed if they'd like to know more about the Vicky Kokar case, which was the case that we ran relating to the Pakistani man who was a care worker who received an order of deportation, where the minister is now reviewing that file. If people would like to talk about that, they're very welcome to come into the office here at KOD Lyons at Usher's Court on Friday the 5th of October next.